In this video, I'm going to be discussing specific terms related to polynomials and what is a polynomial and where does it come from. So first of all, let's define a polynomial. The polynomial is the sum of one or more monomials. Now, in order for this to make sense, you need to know what a monomial is. A monomial is just a single term. So example, 3x is a monomial. Another monomial we could have x squared, or we could even have 2. These are all examples of monomials, meaning we just have a term, maybe a variable with a coefficient. Sometimes it can just be a constant. Now, a polynomial is a sum of those, meaning I add them all together. So a polynomial would be something like 3x plus x squared plus 2. So this is an example of a polynomial. I took all of the different parts and I added them together. Just like the word poly means many and mono means one. Now, in a polynomial, we have this thing called standard form. Now, the standard form of a polynomial starts with the term with the largest exponent. The terms will then decrease to the term with the smallest exponent. So like in the example I had in the last problem, 3x plus x squared plus 2, this is not in standard form because it does not start with the x squared. This should be first in our standard form. So if I were to rewrite this, the x squared would come first. This is the highest power. The second highest power would be right here with the x. This is 3x to the first power. When we don't see it, it's a 1. So next I would put plus 3x. And lastly, our plus 2. There is no variable here, so there's no power of x. So the constant is always going to come at the end whenever it's in standard form. So here are 3 examples we're going to look at for rewriting a polynomial into standard form. So for the first one, I'm looking here, and I see, all right, I have an x squared. So that means 2x squared is going to come first. So 2x squared. Next, I see, okay, there's a 1. So 3x to the first power. So that means this comes second. So plus 3x. And lastly, I have this 5 here. Now take a special note that this has a negative out front. So I can't just let the negative disappear, so I write minus 5 at the end. Now the video is going to pause for a second for you to work out the second one. Now let's go ahead and solve the last one. So I'm going to rewrite it. So I see here that I have an x cubed. Since this is the highest power, it's going to come first. X cubed. Next, I see here that I have a squared. So that's going to come next. So plus 3x squared. Then I see here that I have x to the first. So that needs to come next. So minus 4x. And then lastly, we've got a plus 1 at the end. Now for those of you viewing this video on YouTube, the solution here, when you rewrite it, is 5x squared minus 14x minus 3. So another important term related to polynomial is degree. Now the degree of a polynomial is simply the largest power. So if I'm looking here, it is the largest exponent in the polynomial. Now this tells us a lot about the polynomial, at least when it comes to graphing, but we won't get into that right now. So let's take a look at a couple of examples. Now these are the same ones we just looked at, but they're not written in standard form. The nice thing is, if we write our polynomials in standard form, we will always be able to tell the degree just by looking at the first term. But here, since it's not written in standard form, I can just look here. My highest power is 2, so the degree is 2. Same thing for this one. I look here, my highest exponent is 2, so the degree is 2. Now looking at the bottom one, I see here that I have a 3 in the exponent, so that tells me the polynomial is degree 3. Now there are special names associated with the different degrees. And what we're going to do here is we're going to make a chart looking at different polynomials, looking at their degree, there's a name for that, and then we're going to look at the name using the number of terms. So first of all, I have this polynomial. Polynomial is 5. Now the degree here is 0. If you notice here, I don't have an x, so we say that it is degree 0. Now the name using when I have degree 0 is constant. And this is a term that you've used before. We know that 5 is a constant, meaning it doesn't change, so that is its name. Now, number of terms. There's one term here, meaning I have a 5. This, like we called earlier, is a monomial. A monomial, meaning there's only one term. For the next one here, I look at my degree. This is degree 1. Now notice these are in standard form, so I can just look at the first term to tell the degree. Now since the degree is 1, this is what is called a linear function. Now if you're in a typical Algebra 1 class, you've just spent a bunch of time talking about linear functions, slope-intercept form, standard, and so on, so this shouldn't be new. Now since I have 2 terms, this is what is called a binomial. Think like a bicycle. A bicycle has 2 wheels. A binomial has 2 terms. For the next one here, I've got a 2, so the degree is 2. This has a special name. This is what is called a quadratic. Now, quadratic equations are really important, at least in an Algebra 1 context, because quadratics are really the basics. You're going to learn about factoring and all kinds of other things. So this is a quadratic. Now there are 3 terms, 1, 2, 3. So this is what is called a trinomial, since I have 3 terms. For the next one here, let's see, I've got a 3rd degree, so that's the highest power. This is what is called a cubic, because this is cubed. Now for this one, I have 4 terms, 1, 2, 3, 4 things. Now there really isn't a special name once you pass trinomial. So once we pass 4 terms, we just call it a polynomial and just say we're good. So this is a cubic polynomial. Now the last one, taking a look at it, again, looking at the first term, my degree is 4. This has a special name. You could call it quartic, but we're just going to call this 4th degree. Really, once you pass the 3rd degree, you're just going to say 4th degree, or if it's a 5, you say 5th degree, and so on, like you're finishing a race. Now again, since this has 5 terms, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this is, again, a polynomial. So let's take a look at an example where we are going to apply these terms. So here I have 2 problems. We are going to write the equations in standard form and identify them using degree and number of terms. So to start, this is what is referred to as function notation. I'll have a video on that coming up later. So we look at our degrees, our exponents. So here I have 3, so I know that has to come first. Now don't forget your negative in front of the 7. So this will be negative 7x cubed. Next I should have, notice our squared, this will be plus 4x squared. And then to finish, I should have a plus 3x. Now looking at this, we're going to name it by degree. This is degree 3. That is our highest exponent. So that means this is a cubic. If you're not sure, you can flip back to the chart. Degree 3, it's cubic. Now, by number of terms, I have 1, 2, 3 terms. Since there are 3 terms, that is a trinomial. Whenever you see something ending in nomial, that is referring to the number of things we are adding together. Since there are 3 things, it is a trinomial, just like a tricycle has 3 wheels. Now for the last one, let's go ahead and put that in standard form. So luckily, it's already starting correctly. The negative 2x cubed comes first, cubed first. Then we know this has to come next, our negative 5x squared. So a cube squared. Next, we should have plus 4x, decreasing our degree, or exponent. And lastly, we should have minus 11. Now, since this is standard form, again, I can just look at the first term, and I know that degree here is 3. That is the highest exponent. So conveniently, this is a cubic. Now let's look at number of terms. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 things being added together. Since I have 4 things looking back at my chart, this is going to be a polynomial. So I scroll down here. This is a cubic polynomial. So that is a basic introduction to the terms related to polynomials and what are polynomials.